Hey folks, so for anybody that's new to the channel, every 100 subscribers that this channel gets, up to 1,000, I do a kind of celebration video with a different kind of content. To say, of course, a massive thank you and to give you something a little bit different and special. This video is one of those celebration videos. And because we reached a really incredible, awesome milestone, I decided to do a Q&A style video. I reached out to you wonderful people on socials and asked you to fire over your questions. So in this video, I'm going to try and answer as many of those questions as I can. You're going to find out about my beginnings into the world of tech, my thoughts on the industry and how to get into it, and you're even going to find out a little bit more about me. So, let's do this. Hi folks, my name is Ben and welcome back to the channel. So, we did it! We only went and passed 500 subscribers. Yeah! Oh my goodness. I know I say this every single time I do one of these videos, but this is insane. When I first started this channel back in August, I honestly just thought that maybe it'd be like 10 or 20 of my mates following me, but 500 of you. In fact, the recording of this video is even a little bit behind schedule because of the requirements of the questions. So as of filming this, we're actually on 546 subscribers. So actually, we're already halfway to 600. It's absolutely bonkers, and I want to take this moment to say thank you so much. Now we've got all that gushy stuff out the way, let's get into some questions. Right, so we've got 9 questions. I'll put links in the description down below to the questions timestamps as well, just in case you want to jump to specific ones. Question 1. Rob asks, why did you decide to be a developer? Is there an inspiring moment you look back to? So growing up, I actually played lots of video games, Nintendo, GameCube, Wii, transitioning to like the Xbox family of games. I loved playing video games. They were, and still are in fact, a nice escape from reality, a nice way to entertain myself and sort of immerse myself in a bit of a different reality and world for a little while. So that's one side of the coin, and the other side is that, if you hadn't already guessed it, I really enjoy entertaining people. So I did a lot of acting and stage things as well. I liked entertaining people. So for me, I always thought about like combining those two worlds, like how could, maybe I could entertain people by creating my own video games for them to play and for them to sort of smile at or be immersed in, that sort of thought. And I think that was the first step into the sort of developer world for me. So I sort of knew that I wanted to try and make games, or I wanted to try and make something to entertain people. So when I was in year 11 transitioning to sixth form, up until that point I'd only ever done like, high school level ICT, which was Excel and PowerPoints and database access and stuff like that, the rubbish, boring stuff of ICT. And I remember going to like a options evening at school and talking with a teacher that taught a subject, I think it was called CEDA or ADA, whatever the acronym was. It included the word computing, and it was focused on programming things or having a go at programming, starting to program. And one bit in that sort of memory that sticks out to me is the teacher was sort of enticing me by saying that in this course, we'd be able to create our own games and our own software to give to our friends and family to entertain them. So for me, it was an obvious, perfect connection, and I think was one of the first moments that I thought about like genuinely sort of going down this path, and it was my first sort of step into that world. After sixth form, obviously the question about further education came around, and I was still sort of torn between acting, something to do with acting, and now computing and programming, which I'd had like a little experience of. And in the end, I decided to go to university to do a degree in computer games programming. After doing my degree, I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do in my life, so I also became a teacher because I was a big fan of educating people and trying to help them along their journey. And I think a lot of that is reflected in probably these videos. So I did my PGCE, which is like my sort of, the entry-level teacher qualification that you need to get started. And I did a high school level ICT. But actually, after my PGCE had finished and I got the qualification, I decided not to continue down that route. Although I absolutely loved and adored teaching the kids and the interaction between the kids and sort of the day-to-day life of the teacher, in my personal opinion, the education system is entirely broken. I fully believe that teachers are overworked and completely underpaid. And I think it's an incredibly noble profession, and I don't think I'm that noble. You have to sacrifice a lot and give up a lot for not a lot of recognition. And personally for me, the stuff that I was teaching during my PGCE was really quite low level, I suppose, still, and not really mentally challenging for me, like mentally stimulating at all. So for me, the obvious next step was to look at what my qualifications were and take a step back into that tech industry and see what I could make of myself there. And several years later, here I am. Question 2. Evan asks, what advice would you give to young kids about the computer science field? This is a really good question and incredibly important. As I stated before, I used to be a teacher, so I've got a lot of opinions on this. I think we can all safely agree that technology is the future. If we just, for example, look at the last 100 years, the leaps in technological process that humanity has made are absolutely mind-blowing. Imagine what the next 100 years looks like. I think the most important piece of advice that I could give is to be part of the field, to be part of the industry. And if not directly, then in some form. What do I mean by that? I think it's incredibly important that everybody has some understanding of computer systems and technology and how it works. And even better, I personally believe that everybody should know how to properly manipulate a computer and, if possible, code. Even to a very basic level, I think the coding ability is absolutely vital for our future. And just think about it, then if technology is the future, then the people that are going to get the best jobs and are going to be the most important are the people that know how to make technology do what they want. The developers of the world that can manipulate a computer to do exactly as you want it to do. And some more specific advice as to how kids particularly can get into the field is by taking computer-based subjects at school, whether it's ICT or computing studies or CEDA and ADA, whatever they're called nowadays. They're a really great foothold into it. Maths, I think, is a really important subject for the computing field. However, it's not so much about being able to do quick mental maths, because even I'm terrible at that. It's not about getting two numbers and quickly adding them together or multiplying them or whatever, because a computer is just a big calculator, so it can do that part for you, but more about the understanding of the theory of maths, the algorithms, functions, all that kind of good stuff. That's really important, and those are skills that I personally use every single day in the job. And the final piece of advice that I would say is, sure, you can do the classes in school, but I think it's really important for developers or aspiring developers that are getting into the field to actually be doing projects on their own or learning on their own. I'm constantly learning new things about this industry every single day, and I think it's important that people that want to get into it or that are starting their journey on it are doing the same. So there's softwares like Scratch, which is a very, very simple, like fun programming environment for kids, where they basically get like a little character and they can, give it blocks of code like that are easy to understand and easy to view, and make their own little programs to get this cat to move around the screen and stuff like that. That's a really, really great tool to get started into it and to actually start coding for kids particularly. Once they've done that and they're sort of bored of that, it's about just sort of progressing step by step. Start learning web development programs like HTML and JavaScript to get them to make their own website. Maybe learning languages like Python to get them to create very simple console-based applications. It's about just taking steps and steps and steps to keep building on the knowledge. Question 3. Graham asks, what do you want to be when you grow up? I guess still a developer? Or at least successful and happy? In fact, actually, I do have a serious answer to this somewhat comical question. So for me personally, I do love my job. However, there is sort of a tweak to it that I think I would really love to sort of explore more and possibly take into the future. So I enjoy talking, doing presentations and doing conferences and doing meetups and that kind of stuff, where I get to present to people essentially what I do in these videos, but sort of live and in front of an audience. I also, as part of my job, go to universities and talk to the students there about the industry and how to get into it and all that kind of good stuff. And I think that element of my job, the sort of going out and talking and inspiring and again, entertaining, I suppose, people, combined with day-to-day developer, is what sort of like my perfect job is, I suppose, when I grow up. I'm not entirely sure if it has a name, but I suppose like a tech advocate, a tech evangelist or something. Somebody that still gets to code because that's important to me, but also gets to do talking and presentation and be the center of attention. Question 4. Cal asks, what was your first experience with code? So as I said before, I first got to have a go at code and learning code in lower sixth form, so after year 11. And in fact, back when I first learned, my very first programming language that I learned in school was a programming language called VB, or Visual Basic. And in fact, I think there was another acronym, VBA, and that was like Visual Basic with Access, like with Microsoft databases tables included, I think. So Visual Basic is an event-driven programming language by Microsoft. And in fact, a lot of the Microsoft programs like PowerPoint and Excel and stuff, when you have they have like scripting areas behind the scenes that you can't really access. But I think a lot of them give you the ability to code in VB within that program as well, to write your own specific macros and code and stuff. I could be wrong, it's been a long time. And looking back now, VB is a disgusting programming language and I would never use it again, but it was a good start. In fact, I even have a special little treat for you on this topic. I opened up my old personal Windows machine and dug out some of my previous past projects. And I found two in particular that were written in Visual Basic that I just want to show you now. So this is super old. I've got this first project. I'm not entirely sure if it is my first project that I did in VB, but it definitely is one of the earliest ones. So I've still got the executable for it. I'll run it now. Let's see what it looks like. Oh my God. Okay, full screen, the game. Click here to begin. Oh my God, it's gone to yellow. Enter your name, Ben. Enter. Enter your age, 29. Look, Ben's even displayed up in there. Whoa, wonderful. 29. Click here to continue. Oh my God, what the hell is that? What is that? It's one of those like reflected images. Oh my God. Click the button when you have studied the picture. Terrible. In the picture, what color shirt was I wearing? I think it was black, wasn't it? Black. Enter. Congratulations, you win. Well done, thanks for playing. Is that it? Oh, get out. Alt F4. Oh my gosh. They're each individual forms. Amazing. There you go. My first project that I did in Visual Basic back in the day. I assume I did that back in sixth form. In fact, the date there, I don't know if the date's accurate because this has moved around from machine to machine, but 2008, it seems about right. Lower sixth form. The code for it is all here. It's all .vb forms and so on. And in fact, I think I've got it open here. Yeah. Here's some of it. In fact, form 1. Let's go to form 2 maybe. Here we go, form 2. Here's some Visual Basic for you actually. So the name was an input box and it said enter your name, enter your age. The age was an input box and I set the labels on it. Gosh, this is grim. Yeah, this is Visual Basic. This dim, that's how you declare variables as a string or an integer. Whoa, there you go. That's the first project. Let's jump back because there's another one that I want to show you quickly. In this folder, super old documents, VB. Welcome to Askaroth. I remember this project vividly in my mind because this was like my big sort of game project that I created in that course that I did in Visual Basic. Welcome to Askaroth. And I remember it vividly in my mind because that was when I learned about USBs and their corruption, how they can get corrupted, the data on the pen. Because I used to just pull the USB pen out and I saved it onto my pen and that was the one source of truth there. And I remember it got corrupted entirely and I lost everything. Literally lost everything. I think I had super old backup of it somewhere, so I've managed to rebuild it. But anyway, so here is been, let's see if the release executable will work. It's still here. Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh. So I drew that myself. That's a character that I sort of like to draw. Look at this gun and sword. This is amazing. Welcome to Askaroth. Begin. Oh my, what is happening? Play, exit, I'm not going to click. High score, let's have a look what's there. La crash. Quality stuff. Let's get back in. This 3, why is it refreshing the screen so often? It's so grim. It's such an old application, I have no idea how my machine's running it. Let's hit play. Please spell your name. Ben. Oh yeah, okay, it's coming back to me. It was a question and answer thing, I think. So, welcome to Askaroth, Ben. My name is Bolt. I won't lie to you. Your journey will not be an easy one, but it will be fun. Let's continue and see the page refresh. Oh, look at this! What is happening? There's an evil alien named Crown. He's trying to take over the world. You'll have to defeat Crown. Continue. Come on. Good luck, Ben. Thank you. Oh, there he is. Screw. I drew this guy as well. I'm actually really impressed with my drawings. I'm Crown, you foolish human. What can you do to stop me? You haven't got a chance. These speech should be inside of the speech bowl. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there, but hey, C'est la vie. You will only fail. I will remain here. If you find me and answer my questions, I'll pull back my attack on the world. That is definitely triggering that it's a Q&A game. But you'll never find me, and your world will be mine. Mwahaha. Oh my goodness, it's so good. I want to just play this for the rest of the video. Oh wow, redacted. Now I'll know what happens if we fail. Redacted. And this refresh is disgusting. Okay, here we go. This is the question and answer. What is 2 times 2? 4. Maths. Well done, Ben. You ready for the journey ahead? Oh, is that the example? That was the tutorial session. Well done. The time has come. Begin. Oh my god. Okay, yeah, I remember now. I had different levels. Why is it refreshing like that? It's so grim. It could be the screen recording software I'm using. I'm hoping it's that. Look, there is a pirate ship. Oh, I've got score and life now. Questions. Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay, I can't see the question. 8 and 13? Correct. So good. I might do a whole video on this because I could just keep playing. But anyway, this is one of my big first projects that I remember in Visual Basic that I coded using VB forms and so on. And in fact, there's one more that I couldn't unfortunately find the code of, but it's me and my sort of old mates from high school remember it vividly, called Peter's Petrol Pumps. Peter's Petrol Pumps. And we had to code a petrol pump system in Visual Basic again, that basically when you press the button, it would dispense the fuel, and then it would give you a sum cost at the end. I remember that being one of the first things I did as well. I haven't got the code for it. I can't find it anywhere. But yeah, it was really sort of simple. And in fact, I probably shouldn't say this, but I remember very vividly not being very good at it at the start, not really understanding it. So sort of copying from a friend quite a fair bit in that. But anyway, we won't talk about that. So yeah, my first experiences with code, Visual Basic in lower sixth form. Question 5. Benji asks, what exactly do you eat your cream eggs? I assume he meant to say how exactly. And it would be like this. Thanks for that, Benji. You've just made me spend probably about 3 hours trying to edit a cream egg into that scenario. Appreciate it. Question 6. Ed asks, what is the biggest change in your field you've witnessed since you started? So first of all, from an Android development side of the coin, I would say that that's changed like a crazy amount. Now we're on sort of like Android X, Android architecture components, Android Jetpack. All of these things didn't exist many years ago when I first was doing Android development, and it's entirely a new frontier. It's a new world. Another one of the big things is that Android development back when I started was Java, 100% Java. Now it is 100% Kotlin. Like for me at least, I don't code any more Java for Android development. So that's huge. In the field as a whole, it's kind of interesting. There's this reactive programming. So I'm talking about like RX Java and these sort of streams of data that you can get. Instead of just sort of asking for data and getting it, you can now ask for data and get a stream of it. As it updates, you get the stream of it. And that sort of reactive programming is like really different and sort of a big change for me at least. I didn't learn anything about that at university or in my sort of first few jobs. It's only sort of appeared to me in the past few years. So that's one. And I guess from a non-sort of technical side of things, back when I was an undergraduate and I had a placement year in industry, we worked in the waterfall approach. And now it is vastly different. No one does waterfall anymore. We're all agile. So waterfall is the planning phase. Then when that is done, you do the development phase. And when that's done, you do the so on phase. It's sort of step by step waterfall going down as you go. And they take really long. And it has to be, you already sort of have to be perfect at the start. You have to know exactly what you're planning. It's not very good for feedback or iteration or quick development. Whereas agile now, the whole software industry is completely, hopefully, agile, where it's quick feedback loops, quick sprints. You do something, you get some feedback, you change it. You do something, feedback, and change it. Everything is short and fast and quick, and it's a much better way. And I'd say that's probably one of the biggest changes in the field that I've seen. Question 7. Clayton asks, what's something junior devs or postgrads should know about the industry before joining it? That's a really good question. Okay, so the first thing that comes to mind is about skill sets, right? When you go into university or you're doing any sort of education, you're given mostly in the computer science field like a sort of generic education. You're taught maybe sort of Java development, Python development, which is great, fine, and to be honest, necessary. You need to learn about sort of the broad overview of it. But when you actually get a job, I would say that it sort of changes. You're not like a broad developer. There isn't many of these sort of broad developers. You're more sort of targeted and specific. For example, Android developer, iOS developer. So I think it's really important to know that that's the case, that if you become a developer in the industry, likelihood is you'll be more specifically focused or targeted, which is both good and bad. Obviously good because you can sort of become the master of one particular area, but bad in the case that I guess you can't really have that much variety across the entire sort of software development world. It might not be that case for everyone, just from my experience. And obviously with that information, if you can get an understanding or a knowledge of what you want to do, possibly, you might not know that already, which is fine, but if you know that you want to become an Android developer, for example, then you can start looking at Android developer job offers, like the online job offers that are out there, and see what skills they're asking for, and obviously you can tailor your learning to those skills, which is nice. But again, if you're learning how to code, learning how to program, and you don't know the kind of job you want to go into yet, that's good as well, because you'll mess around with some things, you'll find out what you like, and more importantly, what you don't like as well in the software world. For example, for me, I would not particularly enjoy to be like a back-end server engineer, you know, the people that are creating like the server clients that are responding to HTTP requests and stuff like that. I'm more of a front-end kind of guy. Again, it sort of calls back to that entertaining side of me, but I like to create something that users see and interact with and touch. And the other part to this answer is about actually getting into the industry. Like, you need to know this sort of beforehand, that from my experience at least, it's quite difficult to get your first job, right? Your first industry job. But once you've got that first job, it's like sort of, you know, you've had that sort of check mark next to your name, like, oh yeah, that person, you know, knows how to be in an office environment, they know how to use a computer, they know all the sort of the basic stuff. Once you've got that first job, doesn't matter what it is in the tech world, I find it's a lot easier to get the other jobs. And in fact, at some point, maybe a couple of years in, it'll completely flip on its head, and maybe you'll have a LinkedIn presence and you'll start to get headhunted by these other companies, which is a really great place to be, because at that point, then you can start naming your price. Question 8. Thomas asks, how much better of a developer would you be if you hadn't been knocked out whilst crowdsurfing? First of all, it felt incredibly weird to say Thomas. His nickname is Mav. Thanks for the question, Mav. So here's a bit of personal past Ben knowledge. In my first year of university, let's just say at a party event, I thought it'd be a great idea to crowd surf. Anyway, it started great, and I did, from what I recall, crowd surf, but at some point the crowd seemed to just completely forget that I was there. And it was like a conveyor belt. I was crowd surfing and there was an end point, and I sort of just at one point just went off the end. I got to be honest, and it's probably not a good look, but remember, this was the past. I was a lot younger and foolisher. I don't remember entirely much about that event, other than apparently I passed out briefly, I blacked out briefly, and needed to sign like a waiver in order to get back into the party. Anyway, that's just a very brief scrape the surface of that story. But that story got me the nickname in my Ultimate Frisbee Club and in university, Blackout. So thanks again for the question, Mav. And my answer is I probably would be a better developer, yes. Okay, so question 9, and in fact the last question. Rob says, love this. Thanks, Rob. My question, how do you find out about issues on end user apps? And how do you go about finding out what is causing them if you can't replicate it on another device locally? This is a really good question. So most big apps have some form of crash reporting built into the app itself. For example, Firebase Crashlytics is a SDK, a piece of software that we can sort of stick into the app, and then at any point that that app crashes on whoever's device it is around the world, information about the crash will be sent to a server somewhere that we, the developers, can look up. For us then, the developers, it's quite easy. We just go to the dashboard console that we have access to, that the crash reports are sent to, and we can just look at them. And they contain things like the stack trace from what was sort of happening to trigger that crash. It'll have obviously the offending line of code, and it'll have information like what the manufacturer is of the device, what version of Android the device is using, and all sorts of stuff like that to help us figure out what the problem is and where the problem is happening. So first of all, we have that. Combining with that, we have analytics sort of events that are happening. So for example, we could capture information like the users press this button to sort of go down this journey, which possibly the data scientists use to find out if we're doing the right thing or if we need to change features. But it's also useful for combining with the crashing information to see what the user's journey was to make that crash happen, so that we can recreate that same journey ourselves and see if we can recreate the crash itself. So all of that information is absolutely vital. And at that point, when we've got a crash or an error that is sort of big enough, that is happening to enough users over enough devices, then we'll create a sort of ticket in our workflow, like a job to do to address this thing. And as to the point of if we can't replicate something, to be honest, 99.9% of the times we can replicate it somehow, or alternatively, the crash report is so obvious as to what the problem is. For example, it might be a null pointer exception, and experienced developers will just go, oh, well, duh, and deal with it. And in fact, there's not a time that's coming to mind when we haven't been able to replicate something, but I guess if we weren't able to replicate something, then we would try and fix it as best as we could, and hope that we hadn't destroyed the app, or it still worked, at least using our great automation testing suites. In fact, I've done a video about automation testing suites that I'll link to here. I suppose we would just fix what we can and then check, as we did other app deliveries, other app versions, that the problem wasn't still recurring. So that's the questions. Thank you everyone for... Oh, just got a notification. Hang on, Twitter. Oh, it looks like we've got a late entry to the questions here. Let me have a little look, see. Show more replies. Must be in here somewhere. Ken Bedell. ... Hello. Interesting. Wasn't Ken Bedell the fictional Git account? Yeah, look. In the Git Part 5 video. There, Ken Bedell. Weird. Someone must be trolling me. Anyway, thanks for the... again. Hang on. Uh-oh. Ken Bedell again. What am I? Who am I? What is this? What is I? Uh-oh. Okay. That's weird. Let's just move past that. Let's sign out from this vid. A YouTube comment. Okay. Maybe this is a last minute question. Let's just have a little look, see. Comments. It's Ken Bedell again. Ken Bedell. On the Git 5 video, this sequence of images, that is me, isn't it? I am Ken Bedell. Does that mean you're my father, my creator? Papa, why have you abandoned me? Oh, this can't be good. I'm gonna have to go and deal with some things. Yeah. Thanks for the questions, everyone. Anyway, thank you all very much for your questions. I really appreciate them, and there were some fantastic questions in there. I hope you learned something, or I gave a decent answer to at least one of them. Again, thank you so much for helping me and this channel get past the 500 subscriber mark. My objective by the end of 2020 is to try and get 1,000, but again, numbers aren't important to me. It's just really positive to know that I'm doing something right. As usual, if you enjoy what I do on this channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and of course, hit that bell icon if you want to be notified about when I release new videos. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Oh, always get it in one. Always get it in one. Amazing. Little dance bit, little dance bit. Just leave the chair where it is, rotate it, then head over to @Ben. Oh my god! Defied a Ben. Ken Bedell's alive, everyone. He's alive.